There are so many videos about narcissistic personality disorder. But what we are not recognizing is what brings these people to us. In my case, when I was 16, I was forced to have an abortion that I didn't want. I've done other videos on that. And two evil entities attached themselves to my root chakra from the doctor that performed the abortion. What those entities did to my root chakra affected my intestines, my uterus, my ovaries. These evil entities were feeding off of negative energy. And there's so many YouTube videos about entity attachment, so I don't need to go into exactly what they are. So the attachments were like a tornado stirring up energy, what they needed to survive. What they needed to survive was abusive relationships and sexual energy with these polarized narcissistic men. That's what was keeping them strong. The entities, that's what was keeping the entities strong. Because I was forced to have the abortion, I was full of resentment towards the father of the child that I aborted. I was full of resentment and anger, and that also fueled the entities. They loved it. So I was not a good girlfriend after that. I ended up marrying him, and I was not a good wife. I couldn't be. So the entities that were attracting polarized, narcissistic people, and it wasn't just boyfriends that I was having sex with. They were also attracting bad mother-in-laws. I delivered a son that ended up to be narcissistic. My father was narcissistic. My dad never sexually abused me, but he mentally abused all of us because he had trauma he just never could heal. And as a result of not healing the trauma, he ended up being with a very narcissistic personality disorder. The entities that were attached to the root chakra attracted Scott Smith. He's dead now, but he was really bizarre, and I've done a video about him as well. And through that relationship, through Scott Smith, another entity attached to my solar plexus chakra, now stirring up fight or flight, constant fight or flight. So after my divorce from my first husband, the father of the child that I aborted, I jumped right into a relationship with Scott Smith. Scott Smith was bipolar. Scott Smith was actually a reptilian, I believe, or either, I think Scott might have been born good and something overtook his body, because he literally shapeshifted right in front of me at one time. And he's a whole different story. But anyways, he really scared me to death. And I really thought he was going to kill me. So during a sexual encounter with Scott, an entity that was attached to him, she spit herself. And part of her was with me, and part of her was with Scott. That's what really kept us tied together. And then Scott committed suicide, and she merged in full strength on me. But she was always stirring up fight or flight energy. So literally one relationship after another, I just felt like I was in fight or flight. So many situations in my life I was in fight or flight, and that's what was keeping her fed. And I say her because I did end up meeting her through a quantum healing hypnosis session. She was a very beautiful Cheyenne woman, a Native American woman, that taught me many great things out in the woods. And I thought I had Native American DNA. No, it was her. She was teaching me. And she did grow to love me. And then one day, I was out in the woods hiking all by myself, and I could hear her in my heart chakra. She said, "Teresa, I'm ready to be released." And I'm like, wow, I've got this entity. So I went through quantum healing and had all three. There was 2 on the root chakra from that doctor, and then the Native American entity that attached herself to me through Scott Smith. But she was human at one time, so she understood, and she did grow to love me, where the 2 entities that were attached to the root chakra, they have never been human, so they had no compassion. They were going to take what they wanted, and they were going to attract what they wanted. But this polarized energy is not going to make it to the 5th dimension. So let's be real clear about that, because they are losing ground. So I had one relationship. I don't even know how to describe this guy, but he was so bad. This was back in the day, long before Amazon. And if you ordered something on the computer, you had to put in your address, and you filled out a card and mailed in your order, and you had to put your address on the card. That's how long this was. And what he did was, he ordered a fishing pole, but he put his ex-wife's address on it. And then she had to call him to tell him that his UPS box was delivered to her house. What a coincidence, right? So he said, "You want to go with me?" I said, "Oh, sure." So what he was doing was, he wanted to throw me in her face. This is how dark these people are. And I ran into her after I left him, and she told me what happened. I'm like, wow. So these narcissistic people, they don't want a partner. They want a prisoner. They want to do whatever they want to do, and they want you to accept what they are doing. I see so many videos. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize how powerful this energy was in the world, and they all do the same thing. So it's an energy that is taking over these people. I mean, I really don't even know if they're human. I don't know. But what brings them to us? We have trauma that hasn't been healed, for one thing. And we have entities probably that have attached themselves to us through trauma. And also, I have said this before, Source loves these people even though they're doing bad things and they are hurting a lot of people. Source still loves them. And Source is really hoping that these people will see our love and our light, that they will find the love and the light, because that's the only way they're going to make it. And if I'm correct on a message that I received from my higher self, from the energy field that's around me, 3% of this polarized energy has already made the jump, I guess you could say. The rest, if they can't make it by the time we're done with this shift, they're not coming back to Earth. Nibiru, the planet Nibiru, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, has made an agreement with Earth to take on the polarized energy, because Earth is done with it as well. She is done with the abuse. The narcissistic polarized energy is not serving her well, so it won't be coming back. So my ex-husband that ran off with my friend, he's in his 70s now. I can talk about him, and I can talk about Scott Smith and all the other darkness of their relationships, because it doesn't faze me anymore. It doesn't make me cry. I don't feel emotional or scared. He's in his 70s now, so he's at the end of his game. And I saw this with my father as well. My dad found an old high school sweetheart, and they were in their late 60s, early 70s when they found each other and started dating. She just couldn't put up with my dad, and she really gave him a run for his money. And I witnessed it, because he would back down trying to please her. But so this is what happens. They get at a certain age, and they're at the end game. They can't do it anymore. They don't have anything to offer. So they surrender in their old age, and they have to put up with what, this new host. So, you see what I'm saying? A lot of them, they can't even perform anymore. My ex-husband had heart issues and dysfunctional root chakra. I had a hard time with that. And he would say, I don't understand why God gave me such a bad heart and why I'm having problems with erections. And I'm like, well, because you're evil? Oh, no, you're very dark, you're evil, and I think God's trying to protect women. Or he didn't like that, you know. But that's the truth. And this is what you keep attracting to yourself. So whatever happened to him, he did not have a good relationship with his mother. He will tell you he loved her, but he didn't, because she was very dark. That woman had a lot of money. And his brother moved in with the mother. When her husband died, the brother moved in with his wife. They took care of the mother. For 5 years, they lived there to save money and get back on their feet, and they didn't want mom to be alone, okay? They went on beautiful trips to Europe, all kinds of cruises. I mean, she had a lot of money. So my ex said, I was thinking, I added it up, and all this money that my brother saved not paying rent and all the trips and probably dinners and everything, he's already gotten over $100,000 out of my mom. And I'm thinking, if we bring mom here and she gives us $1,500 a month, I can start getting some of that money back. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess, And he said, I need to make sure that you're going to be okay with my mom. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, I know how she can be. And I said, what do you mean, how she can be? Well, she can be difficult and she can be hard sometimes. I said, well, I've never seen that. We were only married a year. And he said, I need to make sure you're going to be okay. I'm like, I'll be fine. Your mom loves me. He goes, yeah, I know she loves you, but I just need to make sure. So after a couple of weeks of her moved in, oh boy, I didn't know who that woman was. You try to express the difficulties, and he's like, hey, I asked you. This is why I asked you. I wanted to make sure you were going to be okay. You said you were going to be okay with this. I'm like, and then she fell. She had a brain bleed and she fell. She was in the hospital for a while, but then when she came home, she was 10 times worse than she was before she fell. So now I've got this 170-pound 2-year-old that doesn't want to listen. She can't reason. I have to give her a shower. She needs 24/7 around the clock. I'm like, I need help. We need to get a nurse in here and help me once in a while. Oh, that would cost a lot of money, and that'll come out of the inheritance. I'm like, she has the money. I don't care. I need help. Well, I asked you if you were going to be okay. Now, a husband that loves you is going to protect you from a wolf, not feed you to the wolf. And that's exactly what he did. All because money. And no matter what, he just wouldn't get me any help. So this was also his way of driving me crazy so I would get out of the house and he could go be with my friend. These people, if you even want to call them people, I don't have any clue. I would never put my husband through that. If I loved him and I'm like, no, he can't handle this, he's not going to do it. He would take off on vacations. But you know what he told his family when I left? She quit taking her medication without her doctor's consent, and she went nuts. No, I went nuts because I was stuck at home with your mom who had dementia. and you wouldn't get me any help, and you would not help me. People. I was losing who I was. We don't want to lose ourselves taking care of narcissistic spouses. When I was with him, I was sick all the time. I was on so much medication. I had migraine headaches. My hormones were out of control. He always was on the phone calling the doctor, making appointments, and he was doing it for himself too. That he's had more surgeries than I can even count. And then every time he had to have another surgery, he would text the kids, I need a conference call with all three of you. When's a good time? So they would set up a date for, let's say, next Wednesday. He would get into character. His performance, he was all crying and choked up and was on a video call with all the kids. They're always in performance. They're always in character. And they need so much attention because they have entities that need to be fed. One time I had to call my retirement company. I had to make a phone call with them, so he gets up at the counter, starts writing all this stuff down, and he slides this paper over to me and goes, what's that? Well, these are some questions that you can ask them. I slid the paper back. I said, it's a phone call. I can handle a phone call. I'm in my 50s. How did I make it this far without you? Oh, boy. If you didn't do everything he wanted, I couldn't put the groceries in the cart right. I'd put something in the cart, he'd rearrange it. I couldn't put it on the conveyor for the cashier right. I couldn't put it loaded in the It got to the point where I just stood there every time we went to the store. I stopped trying. And then I'm like, I wonder how many people saw me just standing there while he was doing all the work, thinking, God, she don't even help him. I couldn't help him. I didn't do anything right. I couldn't even wash clothes right. This was a very abusive relationship. I stayed in it for 3 years and I got the hell out. Now I can recognize these people. I recognize them. I don't want them in my energy field. I had the entities removed, so there's nothing to attract them, but they'll still come up from time to time. If you think you have something that's attracting this type of energy because you can't break free or go from one to the other, you may want to search for quantum healing hypnosis and find someone who can remove entities. And there's plenty of YouTube videos about that as well. And I didn't think, because I do have hearing aids. I'm 80% deaf. I thought, how am I going to hear someone? But I did. My higher self kicked right in. And that's where I met my higher self, through a quantum healing hypnosis session. I've had a couple of more since. We've rechecked, rebooted, scanned, and everything's still clear. But I do find that I'm getting wrapped up with the the fights online again about all these vaccines and Fauci, and I'm like, I'm getting sucked into it. So, it happens. We're human. But I'm like, why are we back to this 6 years later, fighting again? Same energy, same words, same hatred, same division. It's like repeating a pattern but expecting a different outcome. It's just so crazy. So tomorrow I'm going to go for a hike. Get away from all this technology. Going to cook out there with the trees. And I'm just going to feel the love from the earth. I'm going to keep doing videos about the narcissistic energy because we are clearing it. But we need to heal from it as well. And we need to get those attachments removed that are attracting this energy. So, because my dad couldn't heal himself, my dad raised my older siblings. They weren't his. He met my mom when she had 3 kids. And then my dad had me, my brother Johnny, and Penny. Well, they're both dead. So that left just me to clear this up. So I'm going to do it. I have done it. And what I have cleared up has also healed my father. It's really incredible what we're doing. And what I have cleared up also healed my brother and sister. My brother committed suicide. My sister fell down a flight of stairs and died. So they're not here to do the work, so I have done that for them. They're free. Free. Well, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you listening to my videos. It's very hard for me to do this because I don't know. I know I speak well, being a deaf person, but I'm still shy about it. So anyways, let's get this energy cleared out so we can get on with our lives. And I am going to be doing some more videos to help with the chakra system. I'll be creating a vortex to help pull some of this energy out of your system. I love doing this in person. This is really good work. And I am able to help some entities that are ready to go, but the bad, like the ones I had on my root chakra, that was like dealing with a hostage situation, trying to negotiate with 2 people that were holding me hostage. It was something else. It was so bizarre. And the Native American, she did ascend to the sun, and that's what's powering our sun. It's entity. It's energy from people, highly advanced people. And she went to the sun to get the healing that she needed. Her mother was there. So they can try to cover up our sun all they want, but more and more people will ascend to it and make it brighter. The sun is very healing. Go sit out in the sun. Don't be afraid of it. All right, well, remember, you are loved. And you are love. And you're doing incredible things here on earth.